Bonjour et bienvenue. Donc, regardons la France en 2024. Should we have a look at France and their performances and where they're at in 2024? Give them a grade out of 10. That's what I'm going to do at the end of the video. I invite you to leave your grade out of 10 for France's year in the comments down below. We'd love it if you'd give the video a thumbs up as well and hit subscribe on the channel. I'm doing this for every single one of the top tier nations. I've done it for Australia, Argentina, England and Fiji so far, alphabetical order. So we're at France today and the rest are coming in the channel very soon. So make sure you keep checking in. But let's talk about France. And yeah, how would you assess their 2024? I think there's some interesting talking points here, and there are some grey areas, and there's some bigger picture things at play, which quite often is the case the year after a World Cup at the start of the next World Cup cycle. And there was definitely a World Cup hangover for France. There is no getting around that. I was in Marseille when they got knocked out of the Rugby World Cup by South Africa in that quarter-final in Paris. And even in Marseille on the south coast, it was like a day of mourning the following day. I was up in Paris a day or so later, and it was still like, all of a sudden, the Rugby World Cup did not exist. It was a hammer blow, a gut punch for France. And they hadn't got over it by the time these Six Nations came around. They were without their captain, talisman, and best player, Antoine Dupont, as well. And they got absolutely pumped by Ireland in that first game in Marseille. Didn't just lose, got hammered. And then they used a get out of jail free card to sneak past Scotland, very luckily. Arguably, they should have lost that game. Then they drew against Italy. And then they only just beat Wales and only just beat England. They could have legitimately lost all 5 Six Nations games. As it is, they won 3, drew 1, and finished second, which gave an air of respectability, but it was not a good campaign. From there, things improved. They took a load of kids, as they do in the summer. By the way, there's a lot of people who give France a load of stick for sending their youngsters on the July tour. Quite often, the same people that will complain about France and use words like disrespectful will also say players play too much rugby, and will also defend teams who, like, for example, in the Champions Cup this weekend, I totally understand why the Sharks will not send Ebenet Sebeth, Oxenche, Sia Khaleesi, and Bongi and Banambi and all the big guns from the Sharks to Leicester, because it's quite a tough schedule. And I'm sure a lot of people would agree with that, a shame as it may be. The same people quite a lot of people will say that, but then they'll criticise France. I don't understand. The top 14 final is when the top 14 final is, and you can't play in New Zealand a week after that. Well, technically 6 days after that, because they're 12 hours ahead, and it's 24 hours on a plane. So anyway, that's by the by. So I think my point being is the way you have to look at France's year is it doesn't actually start at the start of the year in the Six Nations. Really, it starts in July. Top 14 finishes, and then they get the kids in for a summer tour. This year to Argentina, next year it'll be New Zealand. They unearth some talents, which they then pull through into the November tests. And then what you should see, normally in the Six Nations, is the best of France with their full bore team. We didn't see that this year. We saw a full bore team, but they looked lethargic, tired, uninspired, and as a result, a bit of a mixed bag of a year. In terms of their overall performance, it looks okay, doesn't it? Played 11, won 8, lost 2, drew 1. And the games they lost, a bad one against Ireland, but losing away against the first choice Argentina team with your kids, that's not really that bad. And good wins against Argentina and New Zealand to close out the year. But 4 of those 8 victories against England, Wales, Scotland, and Italy, well, 3 of the wins and 1 of the draws, and New Zealand as well. So 5 of the matches where they didn't lose, they could have legitimately lost. So it could have looked very different. But I suppose that's the sign of a good team, isn't it? Not playing at your best and still grinding out performances. What about the squad? Well, France have one of the youngest squads in the world at the minute. Out of the top 7 teams, and I've been through and done the maths on this, and out of the top 7 teams, they have the youngest, along with England. England and France have an average age of their matchday 23s through November of about 26. The next best would be New Zealand, which is just about 27. And then you've got Scotland 28, Ireland 29, South Africa 30. So I guess the point being is this France team have a lot of potential. Turning that into reality, that's another matter altogether. And that's the big challenge for Fabien Galtier. Can he take these good young talents and make them into world-class guys by the time they're in their mid or late 20s? There's a lot of potential there. Tavita Tatafu has come in as a tight head prop. qualified to play for France, 22 years of age, 150 kilos. Emmanuel Meafou is now a citizen of France, qualified on residency, 150 kilos, an incredible player. He could be a future World Player of the Year. He is so good. And Louis Bielbiret, a 21-year-old, has really had a breakout year. But there's been so many others. Emilien Gaiton is 21. Theo Atisogbe is 21. Marco Gazzotti is 20. Leo Barret is 22. Poso Tuilangi is 19. Jegu, Oradu, so many great young players have made their debut this year, or in the last year or so, and are just emerging towards the France team. They could be frighteningly good. And I would say on their squad, even more than that, some of their best players are just approaching their prime ages, to the point that by Australia 2027, it could be peak Thomas Ramos, peak Romain Ntamak, peak Antoine Dupont, peak Piato Malvaca, peak Emmanuel Meafou. They have got the age profile of the French team. There's a lot of work to be done between now and Australia 2027, but the age profile of this squad could be a World Cup winning squad. They've never done it before. This is about as good a French squad as I've ever seen. Penaud, another one that has been absent for most of this year, who is just one of the best players in the world. The depth they have is insane. Just look at scrum half. I'll say South Africa and France are probably equivalent in the depth of talent that they've got. South Africa, they've got props and locks and back row coming out of their ears. France, just look at scrum half. Antoine Dupont, clear number one. Nolan Le Garrec, who's come through brilliantly this year as well. He's only 22. You've got Baptiste Quiyu, who's awesome. You've got Maxime Lucu, who's a fantastic player. Baptiste Saran is maybe their fifth choice scrum half, fourth or fifth. He would walk into most international teams. And then we haven't even got to Baptiste Jeannot at Clermont and the young guy, Leo Carbonell, who's at Brive. Amazing talent, just like freakish. And their stocks are only getting better by the fact that the top 14 is attracting so many good young players who then qualify to play for France. Now, hands up, I am not a fan of qualifying on residency. I don't like it. I mean, I would do exactly what Emmanuel Meafou has done and Tavita Tatafu has done. Doesn't mean I have to like it. It's a smart choice for them. And if those are the rules, I would do it if I was Fabien Galtier as well. But I don't particularly like it. And there are three other players, three of many, who also qualify in the next year or two to play for France. You've got Joel Merkler, massive tight head prop from Toulouse. You've got Moses Alo-Emile, who would qualify for Australia or Samoa, but he's going to qualify to play for France very soon. Another giant tight head prop playing for Stade Francais. And JJ Van der Mescht, who was plucked from the Sharks when he was a youngster and will qualify in about 18 months to play for France. 150 kilos, 6'8", mutant of a second row. Huge guy. So they've got so much talent because the top 14 is of such a high quality as a domestic league. So they are going to get better. They do, though, not have everything perfect. There are some issues and some work-ons for France. And they need to work on travail sur 12. That would be a little issue position for me. Gael Fickou is amazing. And I can't believe he's only 30. He's been around forever. And he will probably make it to the next World Cup. But backing him up in that 12 shirt, not convinced. I mean, Fickou's more of a 13 himself. Jonathan Danty has been that guy for France over recent years, but he's now looks to be past it, just on the way, on the slope down at the end of his career. And they don't really have that physical presence except for Gael Fickou, who isn't a totally natural fit at 12. He can do it brilliantly. But other than him, I'm looking around and going, yeah, Nicolas Deportier is more of a 13, Emilien Gaiton a 13, Yoram Moefana, more of a 13. They don't have that big physical presence that you need at the top level. Look at Damien Dialende and Andre Esterhuizen for South Africa. Look at Bundyaki for Ireland. Sione Tuipulotu for Scotland. This is an important role for a team, and I don't know, France don't really have it. So that's one area they do have to address. Experience as well. They've got so much potential with a really young squad, but turning that potential into reality is a big job. So getting caps and experience under their belt, working out which of the players that are great 21-year-olds but are going to be world-class 25, 26-year-olds, that's a big challenge for Fabien Galtier. Particularly hard when you've got so many new players coming around all the time And the final one is mentality. We saw it in the Six Nations this year. France have got the ability to just completely fall off a cliff, to lose their head a little bit. Sometimes to have mutiny within their own squad. Sometimes to turn on the head coach if things aren't going their way. It's been seen many times over the past. Fabien Galtier seems to have quite a steady ship compared to previous French coaching setups. But you never know if I don't know, a couple of the top players get uppity and it could all come tumbling down pretty quickly. The Six Nations was bad for France this year. They got away with 3 wins and a draw, but they are prone to doing that from time to time. And if they do that at a World Cup, game over. 4 years' work down the drain. So that consistency of their mentality and just getting wins, which in fairness they have done for the most part, is a big part of their development going forward. But overall, I give France a 7. I would have given their Six Nations performance 5, 5.5. And they've good out in Argentina with their youngsters, and then a strong finish to the year beating New Zealand and Argentina. So that sort of averages out with a 7. But I'd categorise this year for France, 2024 for France, is foundation building. They've got a load of youngsters in, a lot of like rare, amazing talents like Emmanuel Meafu. Just what a player. Louis Biel-Biarré really stepping up in the absence of Damien Penaud. And Nolan Le Garrec filling the vacuum that was created by having Antoine Dupont off playing sevens. They're in a good place if they then push on. And I think the test for France is going to be, can they take a good summer with the youngsters, a good November integrating some of the experienced players? Can they get Untermack back, Dupont and Untermack firing, and then attack the Six Nations? It's a tough start for them. Well, no, they play against Wales to start. Nice, comfortable start. And then they're away to England. And they also play Ireland away. So they're going to have to do it the hard way. I don't think there'll be a Grand Slam winner this year in the Six Nations. But if there was going to be one, I don't know, Ireland or France. Yeah, if there was going to be one, I think it'd probably be France. But it's going to be, it's wide open, the Six Nations. Can France take all the talent and put it into a big performance there? We haven't got long to find out. My grade out of 10 is 7. What's yours? Let me know. And give the video a thumbs up, hit subscribe. See you on the next one.